1 down in Sarasota and Venice. We're seeing some 59 to 66 mile per hour wind gusts, and we'll see those, of course, growing as the Eyewall gets a little closer. This is our in-house model, and so we were looking at it last night, and it was a lot faster than the National Hurricane Center's track and any other forecast models, but that's exactly what has played out. We're not looking at a midnight landfall. We're looking at a 7 to 8 p.m. landfall, and so it also perfectly forecasted some of the jogs that we saw, especially this last-minute one. And so what we're looking at right now, the northern edge, the upper edge of the Eyewall already on shore, but the surface edge of the Eyewall just approaching the coastline within the next 10 or 15 minutes or so, and then it makes its way on shore with all of that rain. Focus on the rain for just a minute as I play through this. It never stops raining very heavily in Pinellas, northern Hillsborough, and parts of Pasco County for hours upon hours upon hours. And so that is why we're expecting that swath of rainfall totals to be close to 18 inches if you drew a line from northern Pinellas all the way out towards northern Lakeland. And so we'll watch this play out as the eye goes over Polk County. Just around midnight, you get that second eye wall of rain and wind moving through, and then look at when we start to dry out. It's early tomorrow morning, and then we start to clear out as well. Here's those northerly winds bringing down cooler, drier air, putting us in the 60s for Friday morning, and that's the silver lining. That's the only thing we got at this point, is that it'll be windows open weather and our first taste of fall waking up on Friday morning. Yes.
All right, thank you, Rebecca, for keeping us informed with that. We want to continue our team coverage now with reporter Asher Red. He is joining
evacuation zones A and B. Let's face it, there are going to be people who did not leave those zones. What do you say to those people right now as they watch and decide, determine whether they're in an unsafe situation?
Well, they are in an unsafe situation, and right now they just have to do all that they can to shelter in place right now. It's too late to get out.
And just quickly, what resources are going to be standing by for when this storm passes through, and how will you deploy those resources?
And that's a great question, because we are prepared to respond. But what alert everyone to is that as you evacuated, thank you for doing that, but as soon as the winds die down, you can't come back into the city immediately. We're going to have to check areas that have been flooded to ensure everyone's safe and it's safe to get back in there. I promise you, we will get you back in as quickly as we safely can. So please just stay posted and wait for the official word to go back into those evacuation areas.
All right, Mayor Jane Castor, thank you so much for being with us. So Allie, you hear the good news, and that is that it seems that Tampa has avoided the worst, the absolute worst, but of course, no one's guard is down right now with this storm.
I feel relief there. Please thank the mayor for all the updates.
Pulled them for safety vehicles to protect their people. This storm's going to have to work its way through before they start running out again.
We are seeing that happen in several communities, all of Pinellas County, including Clearwater PD, St. Pete PD, and the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. They have pulled all of their officers and deputies off the roadways for the same reason. The same thing is happening in Manatee County. They are recommending you stay where you are, shelter in place in a safe location. You can call 911 if you have an emergency, and they will make an effort to get to you if they can, but a lot of them cannot do that safely, and so you really need to just stay in place and try to ride out the storm the best you can.
We've seen some pictures either from our cameras that are situated around Tampa Bay. We saw one from Dunedin earlier where we saw some palm trees that were knocked over. We saw flooding in the streets. Cars actually still trying to go through there. But this is a time where you should be where you're going to be and stay there for the next several hours. Well, tonight we are keeping a close eye on the Hillsborough River as well, because during Helene we had so many neighborhoods and roads that were impacted by the flooding from that river and elsewhere around the South Tampa Bay area. That's
right. We had storm surge flooding during Helene here at our television station, which is right on the banks of the Hillsborough River. We're seeing quite the opposite playing out here with Hurricane Milton. We were prepared for storm surge, a catastrophic storm surge into the bay, but in fact we're seeing the water pushed out of the river, pushed out of the bay. News Channel 8's Ty Russell is live for us along the Hillsborough. Continue to see that march away at this point.
And thank goodness, Jen, we are seeing that water not go into. Hopefully we will continue to see that. And I do want to mention there are many shelters in Hillsborough County that are full right now. Now, county leaders are telling people to shelter in place, of course, but they always find a few families or so at the very, very last minute who just feel uncomfortable being home when it starts to rain, so they will try to make it over to a shelter at the last minute. So I do want to go down this list to tell you all which shelters are full. It's a very short list. It's Sickles High School, Durant High School, Shields Middle School, Burnett Middle School, Irwin Technical, and Strawberry Crest High. So if you do have to make that last minute decision, let's say if there's flooding in your mobile home community or something like that, don't go to those shelters because those shelters are full. You have to go somewhere else. But I'll step out of the way to give you a better picture of the Hillsborough River. Of course, over the last 30 minutes, it's much darker. And so that's why we are staying under this shelter here to make sure that we have light, to make sure we are safe because we are in evacuation zone A, but we want to keep the equipment safe as well to be able to give you live pictures because so many business owners and homeowners and of course, people who rent apartments are watching this river here in Hillsborough. This is the Hillsborough River. We've been watching it throughout the day. Like Jen said and Keith were saying, this is still going out the bay and not toward our communities. And we hope to continue to see that. Although, as you clearly know, because of the number of shelters that are filled, many people did listen to authorities. They did heed to the warning, and they were like, let's go and let's get to a safe place. And so many people did go and seek shelter elsewhere and not be along the river. And I'm so thankful I haven't seen anyone walking along the river walk. Of course, sometimes we see, people trying to go for a jog or anything like that. That was actually on News Nation roughly about an hour ago. Someone was going for a jog. But we haven't seen that here where I'm standing, thank goodness, because officials want people inside, staying inside their homes, sheltering in place. And as you can see, the lights are still on here in downtown Tampa. Hopefully it stays that way, but again, we do expect the Eyewall to impact us greatly, and that's when we will start to see the lights flicker and maybe some power outages. But the wind is starting to pick up, and you're probably looking at the trees and you're probably thinking to yourself, Ty, the wind is not really that strong. Well, I want to tell you that these trees are blocked by a few buildings, so that's why you're not seeing them whip in this wind. But trust me when I say the wind is getting stronger and stronger by the hour. And water because it gets a little choppy at times when there's a strong gust that comes through. But again, it's not at least going over the seawall. It's way below where it was during Helene, thank goodness. But we will continue to stay out here and monitor not only the shelter situation, but again, we are keeping our close eye on the river. And again, I just want to say for people at home, we are yards away from the river. We are under a shelter. I know we are in evacuation zone A, but the photographer and I, we are staying safe, but we just want to be able to give you live pictures since so many people are watching the river. But for now, we are live in downtown Tampa. I'm Ty Russell, 8 on your side.
All right, thank you, Ty. And it's just opposite world depending on where you are, because what we're seeing here with the water going away, it's coming in other places like Sarasota County, because that's where the storm surge is still a major concern tonight.
Those folks down there are so worried tonight. This comes not even 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene, which flooded out so many homes, so many roadways. News Channel 8's Nicole Rogers shows us what conditions are like there now.
Hurricane Milton. If I step out of the way, you can see these trees, just kind of how much the wind is pacing right now. We get it in bands. Right now, we're not seeing as much as we just saw, not even 30 seconds ago. But then if we pan down, you can see what 30 seconds ago did. You're starting to see those palm fronds and debris on the ground, and that's just the beginning of what we're seeing in Milton. Over there, you can see people getting ready here in downtown Sarasota with sandbags doing what they can. As back to the first thing I said, that's storm surge. That's really what we're going to be working on here in Sarasota and keeping everyone up to date on, because that is the biggest thing. I think a lot of times people that haven't been through it have a hard time comprehending that the entire Gulf can just raise towards Sarasota and come in a matter of minutes. A lot of people think that it's going to be slow. They're going to have time to think to themselves and be like, okay, let me get all my stuff and go. That is not the case, and that's why we see these evacuations in Sarasota County, and we see those evacuations across the Tampa Bay area. That's the main concern for tonight. That's not going to be until a little later. Right now, we're starting to see the wind come through and, of course, all of this rain. And if we pan over all the way to the other side, you can see the rain just coming in sideways now. It depends kind of which side you're standing on with the wind, but we are continuing to see the weather deteriorate here in downtown Sarasota. It's important that everyone stays safe, stays hunkered down for this storm, and we will be staying safe as well while keeping you informed. In Sarasota, Nicole Rogers, 8 on your side.
We're talking about it moving more to the east-northeast, which would affect, of course, where they put that extreme wind warning, which is Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Manatee County. So there's the band. Notice the northern side of this band now creeping into southern Pinellas County. See this shifting east-northeast. So basically along the I-4 corridor and to the south is where we're likely going to see this band pushing those winds over 100. One of my friends in Carrollwood already texted me up toward Lake Magdalene saying the winds are crazy out there already. They can't imagine what it's going to be like when the Eyewall starts to move onshore and closer to them. So again, we're locked in with this northern Eyewall, which is actually being a little more of a worse part of the storm than what the actual landfall location will be. And based on the last couple of trends, it looks like it's made a little bit of a wobble, right? We don't want to put too much stock into it, but if this trend continues, the landfall, the center, could be here in Sarasota County, but the strongest winds associated with it may around that Eyewall. It's in the northern part, and that's why the National Weather Service issued that high wind warning or extreme wind warning here for Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Manatee County. So again, we're watching this very closely for you as far as this goes until 9:30 tonight. We could see it extended inland. Of course, the storm will begin to weaken quite a bit once it gets out of the Gulf of Mexico, but heads up for you in Lakeland, heads up for you in Hardee counties, because you all could see an extension of this to the east as we see this northern Eyewall continue to move to the east over the next couple of hours. Anything else? Oh, okay. So yeah, we're continuing to watch that for you here as it shifts off to the east. The good news, though, I haven't seen any spin with this as far as any tornado risks go. It's one thing to worry about 100-mile-per-hour winds. It's another thing when you have to throw in a mix of those stronger winds. So yeah, we're going to continue to watch this for you. Also watching where that rain sets up the heaviest. We've seen anywhere from 6 to 8 inches of rain already. Got another 6 to 8 inches to go before we see this winding down. A bullseye showing up here for Citrus and Hernando County. So while you all are well removed from the eye, moving into Sarasota and Manatee counties in southern Pinellas and Hillsborough, the extreme rain rates are going to be here from I-4 north. So in south of I-4, extreme rain rates north of I-4 along and north. And this is where we could see some totals exceeding a foot up to around a foot rainfall. So that's where we're at. We're going to start getting some of these coming in over the next couple of hours. Greg, have you seen anything?
I haven't. We were just talking with Dennis. He does not remember a time when we've ever been under this.
Correct. So I did talk to my National Weather Service friend, and this would be the first time Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Manatee counties have been put under an extreme wind warning. They started this, what, about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. So it's not something that's been around for hundreds of years. But yeah, it's the first time that we have seen this here in Pinellas, Manatee, and Hillsborough County. Sarasota County, your first time being in one was when Hurricane Ian rolled through, and you guys were in the northern Eyewall at that point. So a very similar situation here with the northern Eyewall being obviously north of the eye of the center, and we're seeing the worst of the winds and the extreme winds here potentially versus it being around the actual eye itself. So let me turn the flash flood warnings off. We are going to continue to watch this for you as we go over the next hour to hour and a half. Again, this is basically being treated as a tornado warning. What we do during tornado warnings, if they are threatening a major metro area, is we would cover it until the threat passes. And that's what we're going to have to do right here, because again, you may not see another extreme wind warning for another decade, 2 decades. Let's hopefully we don't have another one for another 100 years, right? But this is very, very serious, and this is where the power outages are going to start to come into play. So make sure, like Dennis said, you've got your cell phone charged, you've got our ABC Action News app downloaded to your phone, because that will continue to allow you to see our coverage should you lose power, and of course you're unable to watch us on TV anymore. But this is the bad part. This is the part that we were hoping would nudge south, nudge north, just something to get it out of our beautiful Tampa Bay area. And unfortunately, it's coming right into Tampa Bay. This will definitely go down as one of the strongest hurricanes on record for our area, and clearly the strongest we've had in about 103, 104 years since the 1921 Tarpon Springs hurricane. So there's the warning again. I do want to remove that warning because I really want to focus in here now on some of these bands coming on shore clearly you can see the eye. And the outer eye wall, there were 2 eye walls if you were with us earlier today. Those have already moved into Manatee and Sarasota counties. That's why we're seeing more gusts showing up at 70 miles per hour plus 80 miles per hour, getting closer and closer to that. MacDill Air Force Base, we just gusted to 60 miles per hour. Brooksville, 66. Even in Winter Haven, far east of the center, we have a wind gust to 58 miles per hour. We're at 60 down toward Fort Myers. St. Pete, another gust to 66. And we're looking at, let's see, Venice gusting to 62 within the last hour or so. So again, extreme strong winds coming in, but the strongest are going to be right around the core of the eye. So in Sarasota County, you may be the landfall point when you're looking at the center. Again, the center of the eye where it comes onshore is the landfall point. This could be Siesta Key, it could be Turtle Beach, Osprey, maybe Venice, or it could be as far north as Lido Key, maybe even the southern part of Longboat Key, depending on how much to the north and east. And yes, there are extreme winds in this as well, but where the strongest winds are within this band here. So let's focus in now on Tampa and St. Pete. Look at the rest, guys, rates per hour. On top of the fact that we have the chance for 100+ mile per hour winds to move in. And notice at all, this is a stationary band as the eye is beginning to move closer and closer onshore. So we are literally covered up from north to south in Pinellas County, whether you are in Palm Harbor, whether you're in Tarpon Springs, down through Dunedin, Clearwater Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, Bel Air Shores, down to Madeira Beach and Treasure Island, Johns Pass, south to Paso Grill. We are covered up right now in the worst of the storm, and the winds are just beginning to pick back up. We are looking at Tampa being basically in the same thing. We are not in the strongest part of the northern eyewall just yet here in the city of Tampa, but our extreme rainfall rates continue here as well. New flash flood warnings have been issued. Again, when we talk about how much we've seen so far, 6 to 8 inches of rainfall is where we're at this point. Widening out the picture, Lakeland, you guys are back into the heavier rain. And again, I want you to be prepared for those of you in Polk County, because that extreme wind warning may be extended farther east within the next hour to hour and a half as this comes on shore, because you will be in the northern eyewall here as well, especially south of I-4. So places like Bartow, Medulla, down toward Fort Meade. This is where along 17 we're going to likely potentially see this warning extended a bit farther east. In Manatee County, you are no longer now in the eyewall. It's shifted north. But look to your west. This part of the eyewall, the northwestern part of the eyewall, is ever so slowly creeping closer and closer to Anna Maria and Longboat. This is going to be the worst part of the eyewall for you all as well. Again, in the northwestern eyewall, this is where we're looking at the strongest winds at this point, and they're picking up to around 100+ miles per hour. So ladies, this is what we've got right now. Extreme wind warning until 9:30. Dennis is here. We're going to take a quick break, send it over to you guys. And what's the very latest that you have as far as power outages go? Because I know they've got to be starting to creep up now.
Yeah, Jason, Wendy and I have been looking at FPL, Duke, and TECO, and I do want to start with TECO seeing nearly 45,000 power outages at this point. FPL still hovering around that 8,000 a minute.
Of course, we're going to continue to see the conditions deteriorate over time.
You know, this community there, Ybor City, was founded in the late 1800s, so it's withstood a lot over the years, but perhaps nothing like this. Angie, when you talked to some of the folks there, were they most concerned about the wind or the water there in Ybor City? Was it mostly about the glass panels breaking and that type of thing?
Yeah, and I think that's why so many of the businesses here ended up boarding up and made sure that their storefronts were covered. We talked to one tattoo shop owner yesterday who not only made sure that he boarded up his business, but he also did put up some sandbags and tried to protect his storefront in that way. But he wasn't really concerned about the water too much. He also happens to have some scaffolding over him and over his business right now. He felt comfort knowing that the scaffolding was going to be there to be able to protect his business. Some of the other business owners that we ended up speaking to yesterday were saying, you know, we have never seen something like this in Ybor City. The grand majority of the city obviously hasn't seen something like this or what we expected it to be in over 100 years. So obviously people haven't been through this before without them knowing what to expect. That's why they took the precautions that they did. So grand majority of the businesses here have boarded up. Again, you're going to see those sandbags along the roads. We are going to be monitoring the drainage system here because we know that that drainage system is a little bit old. Sometimes it just has some issues, and that's why we see the ponding of water, and we could potentially see some local flooding because of that. That's something that we're going to be looking out for.
Angie, your photographer was panning up to some of those really tall palm trees that are there in Ybor City, and you can see them kind of really starting to bend with this wind. Have you seen things start to like fly around down there in Ybor in the Tampa area?
We personally have not. When we got out of our hotel and started to drive down Ybor City, we did end up seeing some palm fronds. Our light just ended up flying right now, but everything is okay. It's fine. That was just one strong gust. We did end up seeing those palm fronds end up kind of landing on the ground, but nothing that we are currently seeing right now in terms of debris flying in the air.
All right, Angie, thanks a lot. Hope the light's okay, because I know that's important as it gets darker here.
I didn't mean to jinx you.
Yeah, no. We are taking a look at some of those updated power outages right now. This right here, we see some down lines. I think that may just be a stock photo, but I'm not absolutely sure. Duke Energy now more than 48,000. Florida Power and Light more than 10,000. TECO, I don't know if that number's been updated there, but a little while ago it was 44,000. So at this point, it's more than 40,000 customers. Oh, it's now 50,000. I'm just told in my ear. So 50,000 customers. Those numbers will go up. They'll fluctuate. We've seen them in the hundreds of thousands. So at this point, not too bad here. It's holding fairly well, but with those high wind warnings, more to come, I'm sure.
And, you know, take the opportunity, if you have power, to really keep everything charged up, because once that power goes out, there's no guarantee that it's coming back on and coming back on quickly. You know, we knew going into Hurricane Milton that this was going to be a major power outage event. And so these are things that we can be without power for quite some time following major hurricanes. And this, you know, coming into the area, there are a lot of linemen who are here. They're ready to go.
At us, saying hello as everybody just waits to see what this storm will do to St. Petersburg, an area that was ravaged, like so many others, by the storm surge for Hurricane Helene. And now, if the storm surge is even more than Helene, you just don't even want to think about the possibility, because people already lost everything. And we've been keeping track of Jack Skellington, the Halloween decoration from the Nightmare Before Christmas. He is still flying up there. So we keep saying that as long as he's still up there, maybe we're okay. But everyone here just waiting the best they can to get through this storm. But we are definitely seeing the effects here as the Eyewall gets closer just south of us in that. But we're definitely feeling it here in downtown St. Pete. Live in Waxler, ABC Action News.
Eric, thank you. He just said waiting game, and I feel like that's what we've all with the past, really.
100%, and really, especially the last 24 hours.
Yes.
It's like, you know, and there's no relief that we're seeing the eye get closer and closer either. It is the waiting game. But
yeah, and we do want to go now to our ABC Action News anchor Paul Lagrone. He's in the Bradenton area.
That's right. So Paul, have the winds picked up since the last time we saw you?
Yeah, absolutely. They're picking up pretty strong here. I haven't measured it, but it's definitely 70 plus. And we actually saw some sparks. I believe the power lines were sparking over in this direction. The clouds are moving really fast above us right now, taking a beating. The power lines are really starting to wave. And we saw some sparks coming from a couple of homes down there, and the power is flickering on and off. I want to take you across the street, all right? Because I want to check in with our good folks, Gigi and Carl. They're the best from Boston. Love that town. They're here in Bradenton, where we are right now, in the area called Palma Vista, a few miles north of IMG Academy, a few miles south of the Manatee River. I'm going to ring their doorbell. They know I'm coming. We cleared it with them earlier, so I'm not just showing up unannounced. I wouldn't do that to anyone. But we wanted to check in with them. They got their family in Boston calling, asking how they're doing, as we do have a bit of a lull in the wind right now. All right, Gigi, Carl, how are you?
Worried about the door blowing.
That's all right. How you guys doing? How you holding up?
Holding up. Actually, the power's been off and on, so we've been lucky to keep it on. How about you over there?
We're doing good. You can tell the wind's starting to pick up.
All right. Yeah, no, it's definitely picked up, and we're going to hunker down at this point. I mean, we were worried about the wind all along. It just is waiting for it to come. The waiting game is the thing.
The waiting.
How's the family in Boston doing?
We're on the phone right now with our kids in listening to us right now and keeping in touch and hoping for the best for us.
Okay, well, the house looks good so far. I see you sandbagged the garage and everything. Yeah. Windows doing okay?
Yeah, so
we
far.
are right now. Everything's looking solid. So,
solid.
I mean, we're just
it's
hoping it moves
soon.
Faster.
There you go. Hey, go Bruins, although I'm a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, so I can't really say that.
Lightning too.
The Lightning's my second team.
Second team. Thank you.
All right, guys, we'll check in with you a little bit. Y'all take care. Have a good one. All right. So that's Carl and Gigi across the street from where we are set up in our live house here to broadcast you these images as we eyewitness this storm together. In real time, the coverage there went a limb. So, yeah, the road alley here. And no doubt earlier, this is really interesting. Drenching the wind. So this storm is changing before our eyes. Virtually no rain right now. It's all wind. I think I've got Dennis. Dennis, if you're there, I was told you wanted to ask me a couple of questions. Fire away.
It's Jason. Dennis is getting himself ready, but we are looking at that. You're in Bradenton. We've got that western Eyewall closer, that northwestern part of the Eyewall heading your way. So just a heads up for you, this is where we're likely going to start to see those gusts that could be well over 75 miles per hour. Any kind of an estimate on the winds right now as far as what you think they may have been happening so far? You did say you had some power interruptions, at least some sparks flying, so I know they've got to be picking up.
Yeah, the sparks were flying over in this direction. Power has flickered on and off. It's held strong, though, I will say so far. And the sound of the wind, I don't know if you guys can hear that, and this is a strong gust we're getting here, and it's switching directions on me. So now it's coming, still coming from the southeast. Okay, all right. Sparking there, right behind me. That's power lines. And we've got power lines behind the house. So we want those to hold strong too. But
yeah,
their power just went out. Gigi and
it's about time for you to get out of there,
Carl,
Paul.
their power just went out.
Yeah, Paul, if you have sparking power lines, it's probably time for you to get to safety.
All right, well, we'll keep checking in with you guys. And yeah, this is definitely a wind event. You see that? Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see it out there.
Those power lines right behind the house where Carl and Gigi are, and I believe they did lose power. And that's the concern. I mean, you still, Florida, I don't want to say for the most part, but you know that there are certain areas where you have above ground power lines. That's just the way it is in a lot of older neighborhoods. And so, and of course, the morning after the storm, you have to be careful with where you're walking. But I think what's interesting to me, just witnessing this in real time out here, as a play-by-play as we stand out in this, is that literally I couldn't see because it was raining so hard. And now it's the wind and the power of the wind and what the wind is doing to the environment around us, from the power lines to debris coming off the roof and the trees and the limbs coming off. That is how we're experiencing this storm right now. Want to get a sense for the power outages, because I know that that's happening as we speak as well. But this is howling wind and definitely having an impact right now. And it's when you really want to keep a 360 view of what's coming at you. The house here is kind of a shield, a barrier, because at least it blocks whatever's coming this way. But this wind is now whipping around, and it almost changes directions on you real quick if you don't pay attention.
Hey, Paul, it's Dennis. So a quick question for you. So, I mean, the last 2 years, you've been in hurricanes. You were in Perry. We have another extreme wind warning that just came out. How does what you're experiencing right now, and by the way, you're about 30 miles away from the eye, so the eye probably will pass directly over you. So yet again, it happened with you and here in Bradenton. Overall, the winds that we expect in your area, probably 100 to 115. But right now, how does it compare to what it was like in Perry?
Perry, I would say, Dennis, was stronger in terms of the gust from what I remember at the height of that storm. But we have more elements around us because of the situation that we're at. I mean, as you know, you've covered storms too. I mean, it's literally like, okay, what is your situation? Our situation is a house, it's a neighborhood, it's trees, it's in the neighborhood setting. The situation in Perry was a hotel, it was almost like a shelter. We were out in it, and it was a wide open landscape. there were trees in the distance. Here, it's dense in the sense that there are different things around us. There's a fence, there are trees, there are signs, there's a lot of stuff that can go flying around. At this moment right now, the winds are not quite as strong as it was in Perry. That was a Cat 4, though, as I recall.
It was. I think you had about 130.
Cat 3?
Yeah, it is. I think you had about 130, yeah. But I bring wind warning could have, and it is certainly possible that you could be seeing that. So my only suggestion to you is watch out for the trees, because I suspect there are going to be some trees going down.
Yeah, there will be. And I'll tell you the other thing, too, that was different about Perry versus Hurricane Milton is the nightfall. I mean, I'm just hearing this fence that's coming off here. So you can't really see what's coming at you sometimes, whereas in Perry, it was right in the middle of the day. You had the advantage of that sight line. These nightfall storms, I know that was a situation with Helene. It's frustrating for everyone because you just don't know what you can't see. But you do know what you guys are telling us, and obviously for a lot of people, that's the lifeline, is the information.
The worst will be in your area.
I'm seeing glows in the distance.
Yeah, I'm sure. The worst in your area will probably be about 45 minutes, and then it'll last for about an hour. So if you can get a place of safety, maybe where you can show us what's happening while you're safe as that comes up, that would be awesome, because it's definitely going to get worse quick.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we're ready. Whenever you guys want to come to us, we'll be ready for you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Again, Paul Agrone in Bradenton. We also have Mike Paluska. Mike is in Venice, I believe? Sarasota. Mike's in Sarasota. Mike, you're even closer. You're about 20 it out here. So it looks, you know, marginal right now, but I think it's going to go downhill pretty quickly.
Yeah, you know what, Paul? You know what, Dennis? It has, and it's getting pretty intense where we're at. There's a lot of trees in the backyard of the house, so I've positioned myself in the middle of the street, and nothing big's flying our way, but we're getting some really extreme gusts, and I just looked at the radar map too, and so I guess that southern part's coming in. You can tell that I'm not wearing a jacket because there's really no rain out here, which I think you were mentioning, you know, that southern part's breaking apart and it's weakening, which is good news. We want this thing to fall apart as fast as it can. My photographer, Reed Moeller, is positioned up top, kind of in a bird's nest up there, and I'm just going to give you a lay of the land on where we are. These are some of the things that are concerning us, but we're pretty far away from them. You can see that transformer right there. We have been seeing some unreal explosions behind us, and it's not lightning, it's transformers blowing. Power went out here about 20 minutes ago, and then we'll have Reed Moeller pan to the left, and you can see these trees are whipping. We actually have a giant pine tree in the backyard that we are staying way far away from. Whoa, that was a good gust. We've positioned ourselves, and you saw that explosion out there. I'm not sure where my photographer's pointing, but you saw that explosion out there by that house, Dennis. And so I think what we're going to start seeing, I know we're not in that extreme wind warning, but you know, this is intense. I wouldn't say it's as intense as we saw when we were in the eye wall of Hurricane. I think it's going to start to ramp up, what, maybe 30 minutes or so in it, like you said, for maybe an hour? Yeah. Or are we going to get what Paul gets?
No, actually, he'll probably get more than you do, depending on where it is. But I don't know, looking from our perspective, that's coming down. And you got those mobile homes right there. That's obviously a scary thing as well. So, I mean, really, you got to find a place of safety. You're right. You're not going to have to worry about rain. You're one of those people we were talking about. You're going to have a ton of wind, and yet it's probably going to be very little of any rain there.
Yeah, you know, and that's actually, I like not being in the yard to report when you're getting pelted with rain in your eyes, explosion on you in the distance. And, you know, I think when we cover these storms, you know, you expect them to be front-loaded on the right side, Dennis, and I'm kind of trying to figure out why it's lopsided this time and going sort of towards the St. Pete area. Is that from the shear that came down with that cold front?
Yeah, the shear's coming in from the southwest, and what happens? Whoa, yep, yeah, you can see that gust there. Yeah, it is lopsided. All of the wind, all of the rain is on the north side, and storms have a tendency to draw toward that where that strength is, so that's why I was lifting a little more north at first. But last check, it's actually kind of kicking back to the east, so it's wobbles. I mean, and you know that. You've been covering these a long time. You know how wobbles are pretty much unpredictable.
Yeah, they are. And, you know, one of the things that concerns me the most is we were out on Lido, and now we're getting even more storm surge here, and that's super concerning. I mean, you know, an evacuate. So my heart is breaking for anyone that's still there. Obviously, we've been covering Helene. I'll just see where this is going. I think we're still good out here for now. I don't think these are hurricane force gusts, but we're getting pretty close to high-end tropical storm force winds. I'm going to kick it over to these trees and have Reed zoom in on that backside. Those guys are really bending. We've got trees down around this neighborhood that we're in Sarasota. We're close to downtown Sarasota. We're about a mile from Sarasota High. My coworker Julie Salamone is super close to where we are as well, her Airbnb. And you know, I think where we're positioned here, I think we should be able to ride this out and give you guys coverage to see what's going to be coming up through Tampa. That's the most important thing, you know. I know people think we're crazy when we stand out here, but you know, you wouldn't ask a fireman not to run into a burning building, so sometimes our job requires us to be out working. There went another explosion behind me. Power's going to be out for a while here, I think. I mean, this area, as you know, is so inundated with pine trees, and we've seen them just falling on lines, on lines, on lines, and exploding. Huge explosions, like booms of big branches that are hitting our house. It's brand new, just built, block construction, second floor, and we really, I was worried a little bit about localized street flooding. I'm really not anymore. We're hardly getting any flooding in the street, and as you mentioned, we're not going to be the ones getting the rain. So yeah, it's really coming in now, Dennis, and I think there's one more really big gust here. I'm just going to check down the street. You know, it's actually, I have a clear line of sight to my left and my right, and I've got my field producer, Sean Daly, watching as well. We do want to be safe. I got 3 kids at home, and one is a month old. And so when it starts to get bad, we're going to go in. Mostly leaves now, Dennis. Mostly just leaves. These trees are holding up pretty good. So yeah, this is a good spot, and these power lines look like they're pretty stable as well. That transformer we thought might explode, but I think since the power exploded behind us a couple of times, this one's not energized anymore.
Hey Mike, how far are you from the water?
You know?
How far are you from the water?
We are, as the crow fly from Sarasota Bay, in evacuation zone E.
Okay.
So we're really close to the water, and we were in Lido Beach yesterday, and we interviewed a guy. He has a frame house. He's lived there 34 years. He was boarding it up. He said he didn't get really much water from Helene because he's elevated. I said, hey man, how are you doing? He said, look, I'm going to say goodbye to my house, and I hope it's here when I get back. And I know you know surge is hard to predict, even though they were spot on with Helene. So I'm just praying that that surge, that worst case scenario, as this thing falls apart, doesn't come in, because I know right now where we are, we got that onshore flow, and Tampa's got that offshore flow. Until the winds have been coming out from the east, Dennis, and you know, as they go counterclockwise, they're just going to wrap around this area, and then we're going to hit another spot so that we can duck in and out of cover. We got a really good spot here, elevated. So that's really good. I think the thing is, tomorrow when we wake up in the morning, we're going to be looking at a lot different Tampa Bay area, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, a lot of trees. I mean, I think it's twofold. After Helene, we are going to get even more. I think the surge will be similar in the Bay that it was with Helene in the southern part. But for you, you're a mile in at an E. You said that's okay. But yeah, I'm afraid you're right. Sarasota, all the way up from Sarasota down to Siesta Key, I think they're going to see a 10 to 12-foot surge, and I don't think there's any way around it. So stay safe out there, Mike. We'll come back to you shortly as the winds start to pick up, and that will be rather shortly. Again, thanks. That's Mike Paluska over in Sarasota. We're going to go to Seminole, I believe. Robert Boyd is live in Seminole right now, and Seminole is an area that is actually under that extreme wind warning. So, Robert, it looks like you're okay right now, but I would expect that to go downhill pretty quickly.
Dennis, everything you've mentioned in the last hour has come true right here in real life for me and the crew in Seminole. Randy, right, given right now the wind has picked up tremendously. It is really blowing. You look at these trees behind me. They are swaying back and forth. The stop signs rattling. I feel pretty safe though, because the property, the Airbnb we're staying in, doesn't have any large trees in the yard or anything, and I haven't seen much debris blowing around. So that's good news. But the wind is really picking up. Extreme wind, as you mentioned. And as soon as you mentioned it about an hour ago, that's when we saw it happen. Then you guys mentioned the power outages. And sure enough, you mentioned be careful, charge your phones, the power will go out. sure enough, about 10 minutes after you said that, right here in Seminole, we lost power at our Airbnb. And then the third big thing that has been mentioned in the studio throughout the night is that once it gets to a certain point, too much danger for our first responders to go out. They won't go out, and that's what's happened right here in Seminole. No longer going out. If anybody has a medical emergency, unfortunately, they're going to have to fend for themselves. Police, fire, they are sheltering in place now. They're not coming out here to help people. So really, you got to be careful. If you decided not to evacuate, you really took matters into your own hands. But I do want to say this particular neighborhood here in the Seminole area, there was an evacuation order. So again, we feel safe about that. A lot of people taking precautions. When we drove around here earlier today, we saw windows. I would say at least 50 to 60% of the people in this neighborhood had storm shutters, boarded up their windows. They did everything they could to protect themselves. Wow, that was a pretty large wind gust that just came through. And I'm looking, but again, the good news is I don't see a lot of debris flying around, so I feel pretty safe about that. But the wind has definitely picked up, Dennis. And I'm just wondering, from your standpoint, how many more gusts are we going to see? How long is this going to last?
All right, Robert, thank you. It looks like the wind is definitely picking up, and from what Dennis said, it'll continue to. So stay safe out there. We'll check back in with you in just a bit. And we want to stay in our southern counties, and we move now to Sarasota.
Sarasota County, or are we going to Adam
Oh,
Walser?
we're going, I'm sorry, yes, Hillsborough County.
Yeah. Adam
Yes.
Walser, he's in the Hyde Park area. Adam, this is one of the first times we've actually checked in with you. What's it like in the Hyde Park area?
Well, the Hyde Park area is pretty much a ghost town. Normally this time of night it would be hopping with all the restaurants, all the businesses here, but right now it's a ghost town pretty much. We're staying at a small hotel called the Pally House Hotel, and it's filled with people, actually a lot of them who lost their homes or had significant damage from Hurricane Helene. They've been staying a week and a half or so since they moved out to get to repair, so they're seeking refuge, and a few other people who talked to Hill. We're at a high point here in High Point, but a few of the people who live closer to the bay in those houses that are maybe 100 years old, they also came to this hotel to seek refuge because of that fear of that storm surge. We don't know exactly what we're going to see there, but we have seen a significant amount of rain. We've seen the rain come down constantly. We've seen some squalls, really heavy winds and heavy sections of rain. As we drove around throughout South Tampa today, we saw there's still those piles of debris. So of course, with all the heavy wind moving that stuff into the roadways and all the rain, it should cause some flooding in this area, but right now it's we haven't seen the worst of it yet. We're just seeing occasional rain. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Adam. We want to go back now to our southern counties because they are truly experiencing the most right now.
That's right, and Paul Lagrone is out in Bradenton. And Paul, last time we saw you, you were having power outages around you. Power lines were down. What's it like now?
Power is out. Power is out in this neighborhood. We have a generator, so we're able to continue to broadcast live to you. But yeah, the neighborhood is in the dark right now. These lights you're seeing are from us and our generator. We saw the wind has been consistently strong. This is nothing compared to what it was literally 5 seconds ago. So any moment now we could see a huge gust come in. It is all wind and hardly any rain. We're in Bradenton, south of the Manatee River. Okay, I want to go this way. Yeah, all right. So, yeah, just showing you around as far as the lights will take me. You see those trees whipping in the background, and that's our primary indicator of how strong these winds are. And again, literally at any second, we could get another punch here of wind. We're surrounded by water in the sense of the Manatee River's to our north, and the intercoastal is to our west. Heavy, heavy rainfall for hours until about 45 minutes ago, and it switched to all wind. I'm just shielding my eyes because I want to make sure that nothing's coming off of that roof. About 20 minutes ago, we saw several explosions and sparks. The power lines went out, and that's when the power on this block basically went out for everyone. Our friends over there, Carl and Gigi, they might be watching us if they have a generator, but I don't think they are. We talked to them live on the air when you guys last came to us. It's almost like the rain is being sprayed above us, and it's all wind. We are starting to get a little bit more rain right now, but mostly this is a wind event at this moment here. Of course, the storm surge is a different story because we already know that the Manatee River is flooding, and along the Manatee River are underwater right now. We knew that before the sun went down. The police department here in Bradenton put that information out. And of course, the storm surge is the story that we're going to have to continue to monitor. Wind damage, I will say so far, we haven't seen anything, even though the wind has been strong. So far, these trees have held up, and so far, these homes have not seen it. I have not seen anything come off the homes or hit anything. The signs have remained intact. So despite the strong wind, even though we see some things waving in the wind, so far so good in that regard. But yes, now you're riding out a hurricane without power in the dark in Bradenton, as so many others are throughout the greater Tampa Bay region as Milton makes landfall here. I will say this, you know, we did see somebody ride their motorbike right through the street here right after our last live shot with no helmet or cover on. So you could say, well, Paul, you're doing the same thing. You're out in a hurricane, and okay, maybe you got a point. But I just don't want to see anyone. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. Obviously, you know, I want everyone to make it through this thing. So as I come back your way, you know, I think right now people are hunkered down. They're where they're going to be to ride this thing out. I think what's interesting is how it went from being, you know, rain to now wind. Although we are starting to see just a bit of a break with the wind right now. Of course, as I send it back to you, it's as soon as you guys go to somebody else, we'll have this huge gust of wind. That's how it always works. And the power of Milton is real, which is why people are taking it seriously. Man, okay, that's a strong gust. The rain is starting to come down, and the wind is whipping wildly right now. You know, the one thing you don't have to worry about, I guess, is the power's already out, so you're not going to have an explosion of sparks or fire from the power lines, because that's already been taken care of by Milton.
Paul,
what you could have is flying debris. So
I don't know, Paul.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I'm wondering, is this the strongest gust you've gotten so far? Because it looks like the eye is just uncomfortably close.
Yeah, you know, Wendy, it's so unpredictable. And when we say gusts, I'd liken it to, I mean, I hate to be violent, but, you know, I liken it to a punch. I mean, it's the best way I can describe it, because that's how long it lasts. It's literally like that. Okay, wow. And then it goes away, and then it might come back again. So, you know, having experience covering Adalia live in the daytime, you know, and I almost got knocked over on live TV. I grabbed onto a bench just in time before I almost bit it on live television because the wind moved me. I think I admitted my weight at the time was 170 pounds. I may have been fudging the numbers on that a little bit. And in the years since, I think I've added a few pounds. So the wind has not moved me in that way yet. I do have the advantage of this house blocking the wind, and it's coming from the southeast. It hasn't switched direction quite yet. When it whips back the other way, the wind is going to be blowing toward us, toward the house in this direction. Right now, it's still coming off the roof and blowing whatever it will over the roof line here. So this is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, the wind is real. And the rain. I mean, now the rain is starting to pick back up. So now you've got the double whammy of wind and rain. And I can only imagine what that means for the storm surge along the Manatee River in the mouth of Tampa Bay.
All right, well, we will certainly check back in with you in just a bit as the winds continue to pick up. I know landfall, I believe, is between 8:30 and 10, so we're just about an hour into those most intense winds as the eye of the wall continues to move closer to the coast.
And truly, you have to feel for the people who are there right now without power, because this is the scary point that we've been talking about, to hear all those winds. And I mean, take the rain out of the picture. It's
for sure
the winds when you
hear and that whistling that they talk about so much.
Yeah. So Pinellas County, we know within the last 30 minutes they were put into basically a shelter-in-place warning. So we want to now move to our reporter in Pinellas County.
That's right, and our Eric Waxler is standing by in downtown St. Pete with the latest out there. Eric?
Yeah, Wendy, we are feeling it here in downtown St. Pete for sure. Major wind gusts ripping through here. We got the warning about an hour ago of wind gusts at 50 miles an hour. I think we've definitely topped that now. And take a look. First of all, let me tell you that I feel very fortunate. We are undercover on the third floor balcony here at this hotel on Central Avenue. It's the True by Hilton. And so we are thankful, as are many people here that are sheltering here, to be in a place. It's a 7-story building, and so we are here and we are not out in the elements, thankfully, thanks to a little covering, although we can definitely feel it and give you the vantage point from here. And you see down at Central Avenue, you see the trees blowing, you see sheets of wind, sheets of rain just coming down 17th Street there, and just such force up against these buildings. And we definitely have some viewers in some of these apartments. We can see those folks there that we've been following for several hours now with the Jack Skellington decoration there on their balcony. They've got the light so we can see that Jack is still there. They've left him hanging up, and they're watching ABC Action News coverage. And I can look through some of the windows and I see coverage, and we see people waving at us through here because everybody is just home making the best of this situation. Boy, look down 17th Street right now again as we see the force of these gusts. And something that's happened here as expected within the last hour is that they have shut off water for most of St. Petersburg. They had put that out earlier, that because the sewer treatment centers would need to be shut down because of the potential storm surge again. And so you can't use your plumbing. That includes toilets. You can't operate with that surge. So it could take more than 24 hours to restore, depending on how bad things get here. And listen, some of these neighborhoods, whoa, that was a big sheet of wind. And kudos to photographer, videographer Jason Richards here, who is standing tall as this wind just comes through this balcony that we're on. But Northeast St. Pete, Shore Acres, all of you hopefully have gotten out of those areas because, listen, they flooded so badly during Helene, so we can only imagine what might happen this time. And we reported this earlier in the day, but it's something to bring up again because of the threat of looting. So many neighborhoods that have been evacuated. If you hadn't heard, earlier today, somebody was arrested by St. Petersburg police for actually trying to burglarize a home in Shore Acres. And so, everyone evacuated there, and then somebody tried to steal, and they were arrested. As we look over the balcony here onto 7, you see the force of the wind, and we haven't even seen the worst of it yet. This is, and the other thing that, we've been thinking all along with all of the debris from Helene, all that debris in so many people's front yards that hasn't been picked up yet. Thankfully, we haven't seen any of that flying around because that has been a major concern for so many people. What would happen with that, with these heavy winds coming through? But we are seeing it, we are feeling it, and we're hearing it, hearing the roar of the winds here in downtown St. Petersburg. Back to you guys.
Yeah, I can see the wind picking up again. Thank you, Eric. We'll check back with you in just a little bit. We now want to go to Tampa. That's where our Scripps reporter, Jenna Ray, joins us live from Ybor City.
Yeah, Jenna, how are the conditions there in Ybor City right now?
It's wet, and it's been wet like this for a few hours now. We saw the rain pick up, I would say, within the last hour or so. You can see this rain coming down. Take a look behind me. I'll step out so you can really see what's going on. We've got this whipping rain that's almost going sideways because the wind has really ramped up over the last several hours. You can see those trees whipping in the wind as well. So just so you guys know, we're stationed here at a hotel in Ybor City. We're at 7th and 14th. this hotel is almost nearly full. So there's a lot of people who are staying here, a lot of people from out of town, and a lot of people actually from the Tampa area who lived closer to the shore, who are now coming a little bit further inland to ride out this hurricane. Now it's ramped up here. We're not seeing flooding. We still have power. I know some other reporters had mentioned that they're already seeing places without plumbing and without power, but we still have power over in Ybor City. And right now, all we're really experiencing is that heavy rain and the whipping wind. It's been an issue for a lot of people here. We haven't seen many people outside. We saw a couple people trying to brace the forces a few hours ago, but I think everyone has really wrapped things up and they're trying to stay inside. Now, something that we've seen in this area specifically is a lot of people trying to put their cars in shelters. So that's a parking garage, anywhere that's not just sitting on the street. We had a hard time finding parking earlier today. That parking structure that you can see behind me a couple blocks down, completely full. We spent several minutes trying to find parking earlier today. Almost every single parking space in that lot has been full. There's another one a couple blocks from where I'm standing too. We're told that one too is full, but for now we have power. What we're dealing with here, obviously, as you can see, is this rain. It feels like it's intensifying a little bit more, and we're anticipating that to come in the next few hours too.
All right, thank you. We'll check back with you in just a bit. And we turn now to downtown Sarasota, where our Chad Mills has been feeling the high winds and the heavy rain from Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, our Sarasota, Manatee County reporters really are. Chad, what is it like where you are right now?
Well, guys, it is very windy, to say the least, and we've actually moved away from downtown Sarasota, making that drive up Fruitville Road. We're actually staying at a place off of Honore Avenue. That's where you see right here, a little cul-de-sac, a neighborhood where the power just went off a couple minutes ago. And you see some of these palm trees. We're in a lull right now, believe it or not, but every now and then, seem to be getting one right now, the wind really picks up, really whipping these trees. And off to the left, they're hard to see because it's dark now without power, but there's a grove of pine trees and large trees that are, here it goes right now. You just look at them as the wind blows and you hope that they hold up, but we're getting so much wind here right now, and you know, the eye isn't even really on top of us in terms of track. You know, the track is more north, but we're still feeling it right now. And Sarasota County just minutes ago telling people that they are ready to respond to widespread power outages when it is safe to do so. The city of Sarasota says its utilities team is already meeting right now, kind of gearing up for the response that they will likely have over the next 24 hours or so once Milton passes and they can get out and start repairing utilities. But, you know, dark now, but the sky behind me, just saw a flash over there right now. It's been kind of lighting up green and purples as we see transformers all along Honore Avenue, which is behind the cul-de-sac you're looking at, blowing over there, those transformers. Now, as we made the journey inland along Fruitville Road, we saw some trees down. There was a sizable one in downtown Sarasota that we kind of moved around to you know, get on our path on Fruitville Road. We saw an area where porta potties hadn't been secured. They were still standing in a parking lot, and one of them picked up by the wind and front out into the middle of Fruitville Road. We had to snake around that as it was being pushed by wind. Another tree, a pretty sizable tree down on Honore Avenue as well, but we made it back here. You can only imagine now, as the wind has really picked up over the past hour or so, going to be more trees down and roadways. You know, reason to stay after this thing passes, because, you know, chances are there are going to be power lines down as well. Any number of pitfalls on Sarasota County roads right now, as we really feel from Milton that we're going to feel here. The story here, though, will likely be storm surge, which they dealt with during Hurricane Helene just 2 weeks ago. They anticipate the bulk effect of storm surge to happen over the next 12 hours or so into the early morning hours. They believe that storm surge along Sarasota and, of course, Gulf of Mexico to rise rapidly, putting so many of those areas under feet of water. You know, you just feel for the people who just dealt with Helene a couple weeks ago. They were trying lined up to repair. They had this on top of them again, and with that track north of us, it means the storm surge will likely be worse here in the county. But we're here at the place we're staying as we brace for another big gust of wind right now, and send it back to you guys in the studio for now.
All right, Chad, and we'll check back with you as the wind's stronger and stronger. We want to go north now to North
Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders trading south. Tallahassee for Milton, moving down south to Northport. Forrest, welcome to this part of the state. How is it like for you out there?
Well, you would make a wonderful travel agent. I really enjoyed my stay. Thank you very much. The accommodations are wonderful. No, it's been horrible. Guys, this is a terrible storm. I will tell you, we are now actually next to City Hall. We are standing, I don't want you to worry about me, but we were actually outside of the Northport High School just a little bit ago. We had a police officer come up to us and say, I know you guys are doing the news, but it's out here. You got to go someplace else because we lost during the hurricanes down to go. That's exactly what we did. We packed up, we left, we went to another secure location. That is where we're standing now. Now, I know it doesn't look like it, but the wind is really whipping behind me. It sounds almost like I know a lot of people say that when they go through tornadoes, stuff like that, but that's kind of what it is. It's just this constant rush of wind and roar. It's almost like the crashing of waves on the beach, except for you don't have the ebb. It's just a constant smashing of waves. And the trees are out of control. They are whipping back and forth. I think a few of them might go not too far from City Hall. Again, we are being as safe as we can be, and people are really heeding these evacuation warnings. We had a mandatory evacuation order here in Sarasota County for levels A, B, and C. We are in the D zone, but people were heeding that. At the high school where we were at, more than 870 people staying right there. Across the way at the middle school, another several hundred. And then across the county, something like 6,500, which is great news. People are listening. They're getting high and dry. That is the safe thing to do until this storm passes. Now we are waiting to see if the power will go out on us. But I will turn it back to you in Tampa. I hope you guys stay safe.
Forrest, thank you. You stay safe out there. It's our field crews that really, and they are safe.
Oh, all right. Chief Meteorologist Dennis Phillips, when he says he needs to talk,
yeah. I mean, you know, the reporters going through some stuff, but, you know, I want to focus on the fact that we still have an extreme wind warning. That's about the most serious wind advisory that we will get in the Bay Area. I've been here 30 years. It's happened one time in 30 years, and that was 7 years ago, whenever Irma was, and it was in Polk County. So the storm still has winds of 120 miles an hour, moving northeast at 15. It is weakening. The northern Eyewall, all of the weather that Robert was showing, all the weather that you're seeing in Hillsborough County and in Pinellas County and in northern Manatee County, that is the northern Eyewall of this storm, and that's where all of the weather is. All right, here are the forecasts for the wind gusts. We just had an 88-mile-an-hour wind gust in St. Pete. Matter of fact, we had it twice. So over the next few hours, we're expecting winds between 70 and up to 100. When you see an extreme wind warning, that means expected winds of 115 miles an hour. Now, it doesn't mean the entire area, but it will be in some areas. And Allie's going to talk about that in just a second. There's the forecast where the eye will go, again, through the evening into the overnight hours, and then moving out off the East Coast by tomorrow morning. So at this point in time, there's the latest track. The forecast track is here. The actual track was here. It made kind of another wobble. It made another little bit of a wobble to the east, which is, it's one of those things. We've been saying this for hours. You're going to see it go, and more often than not, when it does wobble, it goes to the right. It's like it goes downstream, if you will. So at this point, there's the forecast track, and that's pretty much from north of Sarasota County, so Manatee, Hillsborough, Pinellas County, you are in an extreme wind warning, and we are already seeing those winds close to 100 miles an hour in a couple of spots. And for the next 2 hours, it's going to continue. Let's go over to Allie with the latest on that. Allie?
Yeah, Dennis, I mean, we continue to see very strong winds. You mentioned that we've seen 88 miles per hour in St. Pete, not just once, but twice, and they were within 5 minutes of each observation. So these winds are not just whipping, they're doing even more than that. And we're continuing to check, of course, on our monitors to see exactly what the winds are doing. Sarasota getting up to 77 miles per hour. That is a Category 1 hurricane. St. Pete getting pretty close to that Category 2 strength. Even out in Tampa, 60 miles per hour, 69 in Brooksville, which is still maybe even more away from where the Eyewall is inland. So that just shows you the extent of the winds. They are really starting to move well on through. And we're also talking, too, about the potential for, of course, the high wind warning that Dennis mentioned earlier. I mean, it's like seeing a tornado warning over your area, just repeated very strong winds, potentially up to 100 miles per hour over the same area. That's for Pinellas County, Hillsborough, and Manatee. A lot of those communities, I know, hopefully people who are in those evacuation zones are out of there because roofs can come off of mobile homes. There are many trees in those areas that could lose limbs or lines. You don't want that situation to happen to you. I know it might be tempting to peek out some of those windows to see what's going on as the Eyewall gets closer, but I promise you, you could just sit inside away from the windows. You could watch the coverage. We have people out there that are doing it safely, and you can watch them instead of putting yourself in harm's way. Also continue to watch some very heavy downpours moving through Dennis, and we continue to keep an eye out on the storm as it pushes through.
And Allie, that's kind of the biggest concern, the combination of the two, because you've had all this rain. You've already had rainfall totals well over 8 or 9 inches. It could go much higher than that. So you already have tree roots that are weakened because the ground is so soft with all the rain. So it doesn't take as much to have a tree down when you've had so much rain. And again, most of that rain has been Pinellas, Hillsborough County, north. Far less totals across our southern counties. And that is going to continue for at least the next couple of hours. I mean, there it is. This is a look at Futurecast. The track of the eye through Manatee County, southeastern Hillsborough County, and then because that keeps this area in the offshore flow. The bay has been so close. Right now, we're not getting any reports of significant surge. We will see how the next few hours go. Clearly, the surge in Sarasota, part of Manatee, and down to the south in Charlotte is going to be significant. So what I'm afraid we're going to be seeing tomorrow morning is a lot of trees down in the zone where that storm is gone, and even more because we've talked about this for days. I mean, this is a storm that doesn't really look or act like a typical hurricane. A couple of days ago, right, when it had 180-mile-an-hour winds. Well, now it's transitioning into what we think of as a winter storm, a nor'easter kind of, an extratropical system. And when you have that, the winds spread out more uniformly. So you get less severe wind at the surface near the eye, and you get that wind expanding out a little bit. And that's what's going on here. We mentioned the northern Eyewall has kind of moved onshore. Well, this is, again, 10 o'clock. It will have, but you're going to see several hours of that kind of rain and that kind of wind in those counties. So I'm afraid to say it is almost guaranteed, but almost guaranteed that you are going to see significant tree damage in some of these spots in the overnight and into tomorrow. And of course, that will lead to widespread power outages. I was just calling and talking to a friend of mine, my next door neighbor actually, and she was saying the power has been flickering. Women, ladies, LSG, Wendy, what are the power outages over? Have you got any updated numbers? Because you got to figure it's increasing, right?
Sure, we do.
Tico is sitting at about 74,000.
74,000?
Yeah. Duke Energy, 100,000.
All right, so there you go.
And that's mainly Pinellas County.
So, yeah, a lot of power outages.
We're coming up 175,000. We'll probably be over 250,000 in a half an hour or so because that area of wind just continues to build and intensify. So the extreme wind warning runs for another hour and a half. They can expand it if they want to, the Weather Service. It's